Hello, welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
And we are the
FAIRtax Guys.
And unfortunately, because of some kind of technical glitch that we're using with these background images, the normal little scrolling banner we use just doesn't seem to work very well.
Yeah. You can see that we're in the COVID-19 protocol here for FAIRtax Power Radio.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. It's just kind of snuck up on me.
Bob is, as you can see, quite healthy, but he tested positive. So we are working in our remote studios, all right, using Zoom.
I want to thank Randy for filling in last week when I really had it nasty and wasn't feeling good at all. I'm a lot better now. But I appreciate Randy filling in on that one. But here, we're ready to rock and roll with the new FAIRtax Power Radio.
Yep.
And I guess we will start off the year with what is undoubtedly one of my favorite segments on FAIRtax Power Radio.
Yeah.
We have been in session for less than a week. And if you go to congress.gov, there are already 11 proposals to change the tax code.
Yeah, the 117th Congress was sworn in, 5 days ago, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're doing this on Friday. They were sworn in on Monday.
Yeah, we're recording this on Friday the 8th. So in 5 days, and how many proposals to change the tax code?
11 as of a minute ago. Let me see if I can pull this up and share it with you.
Yeah.
Got it?
There you go.
Okay. If you're watching on video, you can of course see what we're doing. If you're listening to a podcast or on one of the radio stations, I would again suggest you go to FAIRtaxGuys.com and look up the video of this episode and see what we're talking about. But here at the top of the Congress.gov site is this search function, and you type in the words Internal Revenue Code in quotes like I've got it here. And then you hit the search button over there and make sure that on the left side you've got your search filtered out so that you're only looking at legislation. There's a bunch of other things you look at as well. And be sure that you're only looking at the 117th Congress.
Right.
And so that will give you then the 11 hits here. And there's really not a whole lot here that's spectacularly crazy. This does not surprise me. HR 22. Oh, and also you can sort by up here. We usually use date of introduction, newest to oldest, so we can see what's going on. But they're trying to mess with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act again. I say trying to repeal the limitation on the deductions for state and local taxes that was capped on the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, and the high tax state says that's terrible. You know, people can pay our high taxes and now can't deduct the entire amount that we're charging them. So they do there. And there are a couple other ones down here that I thought were worth looking at.
So with only 5 days of the new Congress and everything that's going on in Washington and so forth, with the certification of the Electoral College and all that, they've still had time to propose 11 changes to our tax code. All right. What's it going to be at the end of the 117th? At the end of the 116th, there was over 2,100 proposals.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I also want to make the point that this list will not include HR 25 because HR 25, the fair tax, does not include the term to amend the Internal Revenue Code because it doesn't want to amend the Internal Revenue Code. It wants to get rid of it.
Yeah, so this is kind of an imperfect search function, but it's the all we've got. It finds the phrase Internal Revenue Code if you put it in quotes up there. Yeah. HR 171 or partly 174 to extend the earned income tax credit to all taxpayers with dependents. That's kind of means tested now, if I'm not mistaken. And here's one that really leaped out. I mean, to amend the Internal Revenue Code, this is HR 143, to provide a tax credit to encourage private employers to hire veterans. If you want to encourage employers to hire people, get rid of their tax liability, let their businesses grow and expand past the fair tax, that will do that a whole lot better.
Absolutely.
A couple of them here. I didn't realize that Puerto Rico had an at-large representative in Congress. I don't think that's a voting position. But apparently this person can still introduce bills, HR 106, to provide equitable treatment for residents of Puerto Rico with respect to the refundable portion of the child tax credit. And another one says to make residents of Puerto Rico eligible for the earned income tax credit.
Everybody wants to get their cut.
And my last one here is this filed under, what the heck is this doing in the tax code? HR 95 to remove silencers from the definition of firearms and other purposes. So the Internal Revenue Code is now defining firearms along with municipal solid waste. We'll have to keep an eye on and see if that one shows back up again.
Not a good situation.
Yeah, but that's what's going on with Congress.gov. In just less than a week, 11 proposals that at least contain the string Internal Revenue Code.
Yeah, and there could be more.
We'll be keeping an eye on this as the year goes by. And any of these things that I think qualify for the 2021 tax proposal Hall of Shame, we'll pull off onto into a separate document and go over that at the end of the year. Okay, I'm going to turn this off and come back here with you.
Okay.
That's what we do with Congress.gov.
Yeah. It's an indication of how the lust that people in Congress have for changing the tax code. I mean, it never ends. Like I said, at the end of the 116th, they had over 2,100 proposals to change the tax code. That's crazy. The lack of stability hurts our country. It hurts businesses, and only the FAIRtax can fix it.
Okay, you got a grassroots corner for us this time around?
No, actually, I don't.
Oh, I thought you did. You're not sitting here next to me. I can't look over and see your papers. But we do have you all mentioned this last week, the new sponsor for HR 25 in the new Congress.
Yes, yeah. And we can direct people to, if you haven't already, go to fairtax.org and sign up to get the emails and so forth. You won't get spam when you sign up with the Americans for Fair Taxation, and you'll get the Grassroots Corner. You'll get Steve Hayes, the president's chairman's report, and in the chairman's report for today, the 8th, is all the information about our new primary sponsor. Tell us about him, Bob.
His name's Buddy Carter. He's from South Georgia, Savannah, I believe. And he was personally recommended to the FAIRtax people by Rob Woodall, the original sponsor who was retiring from Congress, or who has retired from Congress already. Yeah. And so that's how we got Buddy Carter on board.
Yep. And it's a good chairman's report. And like I said, you can get chairman's report, the Grassroots Corner, and a preview of FAIRtax Power Radio each week. And the company that's taking care of the database and the emails, they're going to be sending out some more informational emails too. So go to fairtax.org, sign up. You can, when you get there, just scroll down to the bottom of the page, and there's a contact. You just fill that out. Like I said, you won't get spam. So
let's jump into our little back to basics segment. On FAIRtax Power Radio today.
Yes.
People talk about all the time. You hear it. The FAIRtax is a 23% retail sales tax, and that's all people hear. Whoa, that's terrible. That's regressive. That's going to kill the poor. And people have no understanding of the FAIRtax prebate. So actually, a couple of years ago, we created this FAIRtax prebate presentation that we're going to go through real quickly with you. And let's see if I can bring that up for you. There it goes. So the FAIRtax prebate.
Yep.
You see that? Is it sharing properly on your screen?
Yep. Looks good.
Yeah, it's what makes the FAIRtax a fair tax. So we can just kind of jump in here. And again, if you're watching on the video, you're going to see all the graphics we've got with this thing. And again, I suggest you go back and look at the video if you can. But you have to understand the concept of progressive versus regressive taxes. Ron, explain what a regressive tax is.
Well, as it says there, it's not based on one's ability to pay. It hurts the lower income people, all right? A normal sales tax, all right, if the FAIRtax, keep in mind, the FAIRtax is a 23% tax. That's hefty because it's a hefty federal government. And if it weren't for the prebate, it's going to take 23% out of each sale, that you make at the retail level. Well, for very wealthy people, it's not going to be that big of a deal. But for the poor people, that's a big chunk. That takes a lot of what they're earning to go to the tax. And the Americans for Fair Taxation recognize that right away, and that's why they came up with this prebate.
Yeah, this is a graphic representation of what a regressive tax looks like. The rich has a big pie, a poor family has a smaller pie, and you take basically the same size chunk out of each pie, and you're going to hurt the poor a lot worse than you're going to hurt the rich.
That's right.
Just look at the dark blue. What's left over? The disposable income.
Yep.
So a progressive tax. Yeah, go ahead.
Unfortunately, like Bob mentioned earlier, a lot of people, when they first hear about the fair tax and they first hear that it's a sales tax, their knee-jerk reaction, oh, it's a sales tax, that'll hurt the poor. Okay, that's where the prebate comes in.
Well, this is what the regular sales tax looks like. The same percentage is taken out of every sale, and of course, everybody's paying the same percentage, which on the surface sounds fair. But when you look at the impact it has on people of varying incomes, you can see that that's not good at all. And what you want is a progressive tax. Now, even though we've had some people, progressive also refers to a political ideology that some people don't like. And so I don't like that idea, but whatever. As applied to tax policy, we'll use it in that regard. A progressive tax means a tax that is based on one's ability to pay. Right. If you've got a bigger income, you pay more tax. And that's what that looks like, your graphic representation. You're a rich person, again, with a big pie. You take a bigger chunk out of his pie than you do out of the poor guy's pie, and you leave the poor guy a little bit more to play with. That, I think everyone agrees, is fair.
Now, at this point, some people might be saying, well, how is that possible? Isn't it going to be wildly complicated?
With a sales tax, this would be impossible without the prebate.
Right.
Now, the prebate, again, is what makes the fair tax progressive and a fair tax. Now, a couple of terms to deal with. Family consumption allowance. Now, that is the amount of money that a family is allowed to spend under the fair tax, tax-free. In effect, this is the standard deduction, the amount of spending that you can do without having to pay any tax on it. Now, some people confuse the terms family consumption allowance and prebate as if they're interchangeable. They're really not. The prebate is calculated from the family consumption allowance. And for the latest figures we've got, the family consumption allowance is calculated yearly. The poverty level for various household sizes is calculated yearly. And for 2020, well, excuse me, the latest year for which we have figures, the family consumption allowance for a family of 4, 2 adults, 2 kids, $34,480. Now, it is not based on income. Every legal household of the same size, is getting the same family consumption allowance. You may have to grab this for a second here, Rob.
Yeah. And
that's here. Cheer wine cures everything.
That's an important distinction there. That every family of the same size has the same consumption allowance, because the basic necessities, food, clothing, shelter, basic med care, and so forth, all right, that doesn't depend on your income. I mean, the basics, all right? Every family of 4 in the United States, in the continental, the 48 states, has basically the same costs, basic costs. Now, obviously, a family whose income is greater than the basics, well, they can afford more. But a family of 4 that's just getting by, they're just earning enough to pay for the basics, the prebate helps them. And Bob is going to show you exactly how.
Yeah, but philosophically, the fair tax says nobody, regardless of income, pays taxes on their basic necessities of life.
That's right.
So we just don't charge the fair tax on the first. Let's look at a poor family to start with. These folks, again, spending right at the poverty level, $34,480. Pay $7,930 in fair tax. Now, one quick note here: we are assuming for the purpose of this example that all of the spending that this family does is on new goods and services in order to rack up that much fair tax liability.
Right.
Chances are really good that a poor family will be shopping at the thrift store instead of the department store every now and then. They'll buy a used car, so they can reduce the amount of money that they spend that is subject to the fair tax. But again, for this example, we'll just use that. And again, this family, the prebate, 23% of what you spend is taxed. So we give you back a prebate equal to the amount of tax you pay on that level of spending, meaning your out-of-pocket tax rate is zero, meaning your effective tax rate is zero.
How do they get that prebate, Bob?
It comes in a monthly, probably a direct deposit. However you're receiving your Social Security check, the Social Security Administration is going to administer the prebate. And they're really good at sending out a lot of funds. And they can also check to make sure that the same Social Security number is not used multiple times in claiming household size.
Yeah.
And when you establish your household size, this is my household, these are the people in it, and if you have legal Social Security number, then you get the prebate. Let's move on along here to a family that's just a tick better off. Go ahead if you want to go through these numbers, Ron. A slightly better off family would spend.
And again, this is the same family of four, mom and dad and two kids, same size household, but these folks they're making a little bit more than paying for the basic necessities. So they're earning $40,000. That means that they will pay the fair tax on. Again, we're assuming they're purchasing all new goods and services. All right. So if they do that, if they spend $40,000 a year on all new goods and services, they will be paying 23% of that is $9,200. Okay. The prebate is the same. The prebate is the same for every household of the same size. And again, this is a family of mom and dad and two kids, 4 people. So their out of pocket is actually $1,270, and their effective tax rate is 3.17. Compare that to what we're paying now. Okay, it's just amazing. Okay.
So people say, wow, 23% sales tax is going to kill you. But a slightly better off family that's just above the poverty level, their out-of-pocket tax rate is only going to be like 3%. That's $1,270 expressed as a percentage of their $40,000. So This is your 23% tax. Because of the prebate will yield only just over a 3% tax rate for somebody who's just above the poverty level.
And again, we have to remind you, that's assuming they spend everything on new goods and services. They can legally avoid the fair tax by buying a used car or going through the thrift store and buying clothes and so forth. And they will, because the fair tax is not charged on used items.
Okay, let's look at a middle-class family that spends twice as much as your slightly better off family. This family spends $80,000, and again, it's spending. Doesn't matter how much any of these families earn; it's how much they spend.
Right.
Middle-class family would spend $80,000. Their spending doubles. Their fair tax liability doubles from $9,200 to $18,400. Prebate is the same. Dyslexia 7930 is for that one. So this middle-class family that spends $80,000 will pay $10,000 out of their pocket as opposed to a little over $1,000 for here, meaning that this middle-class family's effective tax rate is 13.08%. That's your percentage of your out-of-pocket versus what you spend. Notice that if your spending doubles, in our example here from $40,000 to $80,000, your tax rate almost, basically 4 times as much, from 3% to 13%.
That means the better off people are paying more, Bob.
Yeah, that means that as your spending rises, your tax rate rises.
Yep.
And just for really quick, we're running really quick on time here. Let's look this up at the other high end of the scale. A rich family, they spend $1 million. 23% of that, they'll pay $230,000 worth of fair tax on that spending. They get the same prebate.
Yeah, because it's same family of 4.
Rich family is taking $222,000 out of their own pocket to pay the fair tax, because only $79.30 of the $230 total is covered by the prebate. There is where your effective tax rate under the fair tax approaches the actual 23% margin that's collected on every individual sale. But calculating in the prebate, you have to spend $1 million a month or $1 million a year, whatever. We'll make this by the year. $1 million a year in order to pay a 22% tax rate. If your spending is only $80,000, your tax rate's going to be 13.08. And again, that assumes you spend every dime on new goods and services. You can reduce your fair tax liability by buying used. So that's pretty cool. It eliminates the regressivity found in normal sales taxes, makes the fair tax progressive in its application. And look at that, it completely untaxes families spending up to the poverty level, because what else happens with a fair tax? Federal payroll taxes go away.
Yeah.
What about those? They're kind of regressive, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. That's the most regressive tax we have right now, because the working poor cannot avoid the payroll tax. There's no exemptions. There's no loopholes. They pay it, whether they want to or not. There's no way out. So
yeah, they pay it from $1, whether you're making $50,000 a year or $500,000 a year. Again, the rate is the same, so they're taking the same size chunk out of everybody's pie. That is just the textbook definition of a regressive tax. FAIRtax Prebate makes it a mathematical certainty. You've just seen the numbers. The more you spend, the higher your out-of-pocket tax rate. The Warren Buffett versus Warren Buffett secretary example does not happen under the fair tax.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yep.
It doesn't. Guarantees everybody pays their fair share based on their spending. And this is the part that I really like. It guarantees that you take care of your family's basic needs before,
Goodness.
before you pay a dime to the federal government.
Yes, it puts your family ahead of the federal government. Right now, it's upside down. To think that because of withholding, you have to pay the government before you can take your money home to support your family. That's upside down. It should never be like that, all right? And they used World War II as a way to get that withholding in there, and we've never gotten rid of it. I mean, think about it. People have gotten used to withholding, and it's kind of like, the example of the frog in the water, slowly heating it up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a terrible situation to think that we have to support the government before we support our families.
Yeah, the income tax started in 1913. In less than a generation, it was hitting everybody, and they were taking your money before you even get it.
Yeah,
far cry from a little small tax on a very small percentage of people. You don't have to worry about it. Prebate, again, is available to all legal households. It's not a new entitlement. It's a refund of money that was collected from you that you do not owe. So the fair tax, once you understand it, you'll demand it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't that cool?
There's also a comment I want, because I've heard this before. If you think back to the rich family, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody will say, well, what if they don't spend everything that they earn? So what? Okay.
They save it and invest it, and that helps the economy.
First off, it's none of your business what another family earns and spends. All right. The income tax has made us a nation of people who are obsessed with what other people earn. All right. You don't want anybody to know about your family information, but you're willing to offer an opinion about somebody else. All right. Mind your own business. Secondly, like Bob said, if they don't spend everything they earn, what do they do with the rest of it? They don't stuff it under their mattress. They put it in savings and investment. And that's good for the economy. That helps businesses grow when they need startup money.
And that's deferred spending. The fair tax will tax it when you spend it, whether it's at the moment you earn it or quite a bit after it. We got about 4 minutes left. We got another really important point that we have to hit on. Because the Congress has reset, we have a new Congress. All of the comments that were left on PopVox for legislation relating to the 116th Congress is gone. So we need to encourage people to go to popvox.com and reissue their support for HR 25, the fair tax. I've already done that. There were like 5 people on there that had said we support the fair tax.
There's 6 now.
There's 6 now. You did yours?
Yeah. And I encouraged my wife to get on there too. So this is important. We hit on this during the last Congress, and we really need a lot of people to get on PopVox and sign up in favor of the fair tax, because that's what Congress looks like. So we need thousands and thousands of people doing this. So
yes, you sign up, you register for your account on PopVox, you give it your address down to your extended zip code if you got it, so they simply know what congressional district you live in. And then comments that are left there on PopVox, I guarantee you the Congress critters see them. Now, maybe the Congress critters themselves don't look at it all that much. Congressman Yoho told us, though, that everybody up there has got at least one staffer, probably more, that are dedicated. Their only job is to keep an eye on PopBox. So, see what hot buttons there are, what issues are generating a lot of response, and then what that response is.
Yeah. So it's a really good site, and I'm pleased to promote PopBox because it was started by a couple of ladies in Washington D.C. So I love that entrepreneurial spirit. Okay, and right now, like Bob said, a lot of congressmen depend on getting information off of PopBox. So
yeah, and what really did it forced the percentage of the supporters versus opponents is important, but just the raw numbers. I mean, if you got 100 people supporting it, or 98 out of 100 people supporting it, that's a 98% rate. But I've only got 100 people out of a population of 320 million saying anything about it. So we need to drive the number of comments on HR 25 way up, well beyond what we had last time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they figure, not a whole lot of interest in this. I'm not going to pay it much mind.
Yeah. So we need people to do this. And like Bob said, it's a new Congress, and they're starting all over again with the registration. So you have to go to PopBox and re-register your support for the FAIRtax HR 25. And
if you have not done so already, we urge you to join AFFT. Join the 1040 Club if you can. Pledge $10.40 a month to get rid of Form 1040. I think that's quite well worth it.
Yep. And I got a new idea yesterday. I was one of our volunteers called and was.
You got about 45 seconds to do it.
Okay, we can go a touch longer because I'm going to edit out some of those blank spots. But anyways, we were talking about the FAIRtax, and my home phone rang in the background, and I said something about telemarketers, and he said, and this is, I want to give credit to Jerry Hammett of Brooksville here in Florida. He says, when I get a telemarketer and it's a real person, I start talking to them about the FAIRtax. He says, yeah, and he says, sometimes they get interested and they want to hear about it, and other times they just hang up on me. So that's another way to promote the FAIRtax and deal with a telemarketer at the same time.
How cool is that?
I think that's
all right.
Great.
Well, hopefully we can get out of COVID protocol here before too much longer and get back to our regular FAIRtax Power Radio studio. But hey, we use the technology we can, and
that's right.
This has been a grand experiment anyway, and that is going to wrap up this edition of FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
The FAIRtax Guys are reminding you once again, as we always do, that the FAIRtax is the only truly fair tax, and once you understand it,
you'll demand it.
So what would you do for her?
Well, we've got several programs that will help her. We just need to find out how much she makes. But the good news is, the less she does, the more we can help.
Yeah.
If I may, with the FAIRtax, we wouldn't even tax her income. So the more she makes, the more she has.
But still, a consumption tax could eat up a lot of her income.
Which is why at the beginning of every month, we're actually going to give back all that she pays in taxes on basic necessities.
You're going to give her back her taxes?
Every month, on everything taxed on basic necessities. But we're also going to give it back to you and to every American citizen.
Why?
Well, we believe taxes should be fair.